Hello, our speaker tonight is Kelly Todd Gabrysch, and he'll be speaking on Eugenias, which is our festival of fruit. I know that Kelly has said that the Eugenia family is very large, and with any large family, you'll have some haters. So he lives in Eagle Rock, and he has hundreds of fruiting plants. And I heard that he had like over 62 Eugenias. And then 10 minutes later, I found out that he was over 75 Eugenias. So they're sprouting and growing and fruiting all the time. He has his own YouTube channel. And remember the name, it's Fancy Plants. He has everything. He has dozens and dozens of videos, all kinds of fruiting plants, ways to take care of your garden, ways to protect your fruit from pests like rats. And he also has, oh, the most amazing video. I was eaten alive a couple years ago by mosquitoes. It was horrible. And I was just almost in tears. And I was just listening to some of his videos because they make me feel better. He has a video, very low cost, will get rid of mosquitoes in your yard. It's so amazing. You need to go look it up. Fancy Plants, it's the mosquito video, and it works. It truly does. It took care of my yard. It was fantastic. So Kelly, I'd love for you to tell us about Eugenias. And I have heard that maybe you have a couple Eugenias that have been impervious to rats. If that's true, I hope you'll talk about that.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Was last weekend the sale that you guys had? Okay, I was going to go. The only reason that I didn't go is because my house was being toured by another chapter. So otherwise I would have gone and bought all of your stuff because I'm really, really, really into rare fruit. So my name's Kelly, and your introduction to me was great. Thank you very much. It shows that you watch some of the videos because actually the one about mosquitoes took off lately, and people just love it. If you have a small yard and you do have a lot of bromeliads or other things, then mosquitoes get in there. And it's called the four corners method. It's a really quick way that you can do about once a week. You go out there, set it up, and at least for my yard, it did something. So it's a way to, at least try instead of do nothing. So today, talk about Eugenia. I think it's kind of cool that the Festival of Fruits would have a theme. We did it in 2019 in the Foothill chapter, and I don't remember a theme. So this is a great one. Because Eugenia, I already had two people ask. By the way, can everyone hear me? I'm terrible speaker, but hopefully everyone can hear me. And okay. So two people have said, what are Eugenia? So it's a wide family of fruits. We go from very small trees you can grow in containers to very large trees that must go in the ground. But most of what I grow is going to be small enough to be in a container because my yard is very small and I want my trees to be about 12 feet and under. So most of the ones that we talk about today are going to fit in that category. So if you have limited space, you have a half wine barrel, you can grow Eugenia. If you have a small spot in your yard that's full sun, semi-shade, a lot of shade, Eugenia, you can get something that fills all those spots. So some people know it because they know Surinam cherry, or they know Patangatuba or Patomba. Those are the cherry of the Rio Grande. Some of them suck. They're not all good. So what we're going to go through today is some of the ones that I've picked out because there's a wide range and not all of them are good, but there are so many of them that we're just stumbling across the vast majority of the ones that are there. So we'll go to the second slide now. So that's a little bit about me. That's usually the name I go by when you're looking for me. If there's a social media platform that has somebody that already has that name, I just add the letters LA after it because since I'm in Los Angeles. So I'm Fancy Plants or Fancy Plants LA. And in my tiny yard, because I think we measured it at 7,500 square feet, I have about 300 species. And 100 of those are Eugenia. So that's how little space they take. Because I mean, I pack it in. Let's go to the next slide now. When you're looking for seeds, I gave you a little list of some of the places that have Eugenia seeds often. Bellamy trees, just a little history of me. I got addicted to rare fruit around 2012 when I went and I tasted a guava I bought from Home Depot. It was a strawberry guava. But for someone that had never gotten anything outside of a grocery store, that was a big deal. So then I went online and I joined Tropical Fruit Forum, which is listed there near the bottom. And that opened up an entire world of people that live, anywhere in the globe, and they will sell you seeds that you usually need an import license for, but it's easy to get, but you can get seeds anywhere. But a couple of guys have taken out the work for you. So Bellamy Trees, Hoppa Joe's, they're personal friends of mine. Bellamy especially, he has got connections worldwide, and the amount of Eugenias that he has listed is sometimes in the hundreds. So that's a very, very good place to go. Joseph, who runs Hoppa Joe's, he's in the chapter by the airport. I forget what yeah, South Bay. And he went and actually collected Eugenia in the wild. So we'll go through some of the stuff because some of the stuff I grow is from him. But you can't go wrong with any of these because they'll all have Eugenia at some point. All right. So with germinating seeds, whether it becomes, because it's not just Eugenia, I'm really excited about it. I love annona, I love Garcinia, I love anything that's tasty. And when I was germinating these seeds, a lot of times they would dampen off or they would rot and they just were difficult to germinate. So what I did here was a quick slide where it showed, I had heating pads and I had them under incandescent lights or grow lights or whatever, 50-50. But the new way I do it now, I keep them usually in the bag that the seller sends them in, which is usually in vermiculite or perlite. I expose it to light. I put it on some sort of like light, whether it's, a projector or you just have a lamp and you have it setting under. And I almost get 100% germination if the seed's viable. A lot of times the seeds aren't viable. Annona are notorious for that. But Eugenia, they have a very high success rate. So if you order 3 seeds, you'll probably get 3 trees. If you just let them sit in the bag and you wait until you see that first little root develop, then you can pot them up if you want, but I actually wait for them to send out the root and the first 2 cotyledon leaves, and then I usually pot them up after that point. All right. So, all right, we'll skip this slide since you know what I'm talking about. This is the video that I was introduced on. So about 2 years ago, I did a YouTube video about 62 Eugenia that I had either in the ground or a lot of them in pots. There are over 1,100 Eugenia species that are recognized. So 62 is a drop in the bucket, not very many at all. Since that video, I have a lot of things that have died, and we'll go through that, but I kept collecting, and I'm probably up to around somewhere between 80 or 100. I have to do another count. The reason I don't quite know is last year I had raccoons in my yard, and I had probably planted 50 Eugenia in the ground. So they were small, they were all in 1-gallon pots, and I was gonna let them take off. Well, the raccoons hit my yard and I wasn't home that next day. And so they dug them up so that they could get the worms and the water and everything. And some of the rarest Eugenia I had didn't like that. Some have a taproot, got broke off, so they all died. So I'm kind of starting over with a lot. Plus, out of those 60, I did put a lot of those in the ground that, stayed protected because now I bought an electric fence. Raccoons, no problem anymore. But they just don't like the soil. So we'll go through some of them that you need to grow in containers because, man, Eugenia do not get affected by our cold usually. So if it's in a pot with a good potting mix, even though it gets down to my place to 34 degrees for 4 months straight, they do not suffer. But once I put them in the ground, that's a whole different story. So it really is important how you grow them. But one of the reasons they come from all over, and one of the reasons I'm into them is because the taste profiles. The taste profiles range from the sourest thing you've ever put in your mouth to some of the sweetest, most delicious fruit that you could imagine. Now, because we were going through the presentation thing, I didn't have a chance to put one of the new ones I just tasted today up. So if you go to YouTube or Instagram or whatever, look for the Eugenia that I just posted today, because I've never had one that had the flavor profile that it had today. It tasted like a jelly, a blueberry jelly. So that's unusual because normally they have, you would say a tropical fruit vibe to them. It was very unique and very different. And I waited 8 years growing it from seed to be able to taste that. Totally worth it though. Let's see, we've covered most of these. We'll go through some of the ornamental ones because whether you like the fruit or not, some of the leaves on these guys are incredible. You get from miniature leaves to ginormous leaves. And of course, it depends on the tree size, but sometimes it's a 100-foot tree with the tiniest leaves you've ever seen, and sometimes a 2-footer with 1-foot leaves. So they kind of span all over. All right, we'll go to the next one. So this is just quickly to say, like, of the ones that I grow, Eugenia pyriformis is one of them. That's kind of the largest that I go at because you can cap it off at about 12 to 15 feet. So most of the ones that I'm going to talk about are good for the small ones. Then there's one called Eugenia leotonii. I also have it. I'm going to be silly. This tree is normally 100 feet tall. I'm going to see if I can grow it in a half wine barrel and see what it does because I just don't have space for it. I should be growing this. I have a tiny, tiny little farm in Hawaii where I'm really, really going to specialize in rare tropical fruit, especially Eugenia there, and start crossbreeding them and see what else, hybrids we can get. That tree will hopefully make it there and be able to grow to its full potential. But here, half wine barrel, that's as big as I go. Sure. So let's talk about the leaves. I did a couple of slides with names that may not mean a lot to you, but it's just showing off the leaf structure on these. So I tried to put my thumb so you can see from that first one, pretty slender. The second one is super slender. And then that's the leotonii. That's the one that's 100 feet tall. That's in a 1-gallon pot. That's how big that leaf is already. So it's really big. And then you kind of get a lime green color. I thought it was chlorotic, maybe not getting enough iron or nutrients. Nope, that's just the color of the leaf all year round. And then Eugenia squamiflora, I'm waiting for it to fruit. That has a very bright orange fruit, very tasty from the reports that have come my way. But I'm going to disclaimer. Everyone's going to tell you the fruit tastes amazing. Oh my God, buy my seeds. It's the best tasting Eugenia. We're all going through that now. Like I have a friend in Hawaii who's growing a lot of Eugenia as well. And there was one called Eugenia pisciformis. Awful name. But oh my God, it was sold to us as you have got to grow this because you will never want another fruit. Well, he just tasted it and it's like, eh. And we don't know if Eugenia quite have that first year syndrome that fruit can have because sometimes the first fruit aren't that good. So you need to give it 3 or 4 years. But so far, Eugenia have seemed to be like the first year you taste it or get fruit from that tree. That's kind of what it is. But since it's still so new, we're trying to figure out, okay, well, we'll give it 1 more year and then we'll kind of go back online and say, well, it's not really that great. But yeah, my friend slammed it. He's like, insipid, doesn't have a whole lot of taste to it, and a small fruit. Thank God that seed was $50, right? Things like that. All right, we'll go to the next slide. Just other ones that are here. Eugenia myrcianthes, you guys might know as Hexaclamus edulis. I was talking to someone here tonight about that one. Gabrysch, I don't know, I forget the common name. I tend to use Latin names when I talk about the stuff. That way you know exactly what I'm talking about. We had a quick conversation that's the fruit that smells like garlic when it's super ripe, and it smells like garlic, and oh my God, gross. But if you eat it before it gets that garlic smell, it's like one of the best guavas you've ever had because it does have a very pleasant taste to it. So that's another unique thing with Eugenia. It had one taste before it was ripe and a different taste after it's ripe. Both some people liked. Some people love the garlic, thing. It's just not for me. I mean, durian, eh. There are durian that don't have that garlicky thing. Those are the ones I like. So with the Eugenia, I'm probably going to go towards the sweet side as well. Well, there's guava Jew and guava J, the common names, I can't remember how you spell them, but no, one is a Eugenia and the other one is, I can't even, not a myrcianthes, yeah, but it's something else. Yes, that's what I'm going to say and stick to it. It is something else. And then grumachama, does anyone here grow grumachama? Are your leaves big or are they kind of smaller? Medium? That It seems like, well, because there's a yellow version, a red version, and an orange version. And I've just noticed that the yellow version has very different leaves. The fruit tastes almost identical. You grow them because they look different, all these pretty colors you get to like pop. They taste pretty similar, but the leaves are different. So that's just what the Brazilians as yellow looks like. Yes, yes. I've heard it called that as well. All right, next slide. Now for the potting mix, it's very easy to overwater and underwater Eugenia. Normally, overwatering is not a problem, but some of the Eugenia come from a region in Brazil called the Cerrado, and the Cerrado is very big, but usually they're dry regions. So there's a joke in the really rare collectors that you suffer the Cerrado curse because you're either gonna overwater or underwater. So this is a DIY mix that I've never had failure for the Eugenia. I know it's a lot of ingredients, you're like, oh my God. But like rice hulls, go to a feed store. I got a 4 cubic foot bag for 12 bucks. And that's gonna make so much potting mix for you. It's ridiculous. Unfortunately, peat moss is going up in price and stuff, but the other ones, you don't have to buy that much depending on your needs or, ask someone if they have rice hulls or they have horses or something. But with this mix, super easy drainage. You just fertilize once or twice a year and you're set. With the ground, that's where I've run into problems. That's what experimentation is for. At the very last video, because on some of these I have videos because it's just easier. I do editing and you'll get a little bit more excitement than me talking up here. And you'll see some of the ones I put in are just, they're gonna die because I don't know what it is in the soil. They're just like, ugh. 10 Eugenia of different species are like doing so good, and then you'll get another one that's dead. And I know it's not that species because I have it planted over there and planted over there and planted over there, and they're all dying in the ground. So it's just one of the risks you're gonna have to take. But if you keep it in a container, no problem. All right, I think we went through this one. We can go to the next one. No particular order. At first, I was doing alphabetical, but then once I was videos and all this other stuff, let's just pretend there's, a secret order I'm not going to tell you about, but it's kind of a mishmash. So Eugenia anthropophaga, I just like the fruit size. It's on the sour side. So if you like more sour than sweet, but it's still a good balance, this is a good one to grow. They're about yay big, really funky shape. You really don't get another Eugenia in that shape. And then this is for my video. This is what it looked like in a container. Uh, Less than 2 years old, so very fast growing as well. When I put it into the ground, it looks like it's dying, but I have a lot of leaves coming from the bottom. So for some reason, it's die off on the top, just part of what's going on. But I have 3 of them. They're all surviving. No issue with the winter. They look like that year round, but they also flower. So at some point, you'll get flowers where there are no leaves. And so hopefully I'll get some fruit off of these guys. Okay. This is the one that I was able to taste this morning. So talk about ornamental, Eugenia. Oh my God, this bush is beautiful because at the beginning of the springtime, these red little tips are everywhere for a good month and a half. So you're going to get this flash of color followed by this Christmas tree bloom of white flowers everywhere. And then that's the first time I tried the fruit. And that's the one I said tasted like blueberry jelly. And it was really worth it. Very small seed and a somewhat small fruit, but totally more flesh. I would say 90% flesh and 5% seed. So the seed is kind of like a tomato seed. Worth growing. It took me 8 years to try it, but worth it. All right, with this one, Eugenia coronata, I'll just play the video and we'll let you guys listen to the video. Okay, this is another one of those breakthrough moments. I'm so freaking excited. This is Eugenia coronata. Pretty freaking rare. And it blooms on me. This is the 3rd year I've had blooms. And I was so disappointed. I have 2 for cross-pollination because they thought, hey, maybe they, are not loving the fact that they're all single and stuff. So then today I'm out here and I'm watering and I'm like having a heart attack. Holy shit. There is fruit. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I count roughly, 12, 13, 14. This is super exciting. I'm not quite sure if they're ready yet. They are rock hard, and I don't think they're supposed to be rock hard. Oh shit, this one fell off. Let's do a taste test. So this really is exciting. So it's about the size of an Australian beach cherry or a coffee berry. Just something for you to relate to. All right, so kind of a big seed. This is gonna sound weird, but to me, that tasted like chocolate and fruit. Not like chocolate and raisins, but chocolate and fruit. There we go, Eugenia coronata. I'll be saving the seeds and planting them, so stay tuned. Thanks. It's a really strong flavor, so even though it's a small fruit with a big seed, it's a flavor that you remember. It's really interesting. Unfortunately, that's one of the ones I put in the ground, and for 2 years, it was awesome. But I live kind of close to Altadena, so with the high winds, the ash falling from all the fires, all of a sudden, starting January, it declined, and all I have are a few sprigs. And you saw that was a very big plant, almost dead, but luckily I have some of the seedlings that I'm going to, replace, but I'll probably keep it in a container after that. All right. This is the Eugenia myrcianthes that we talked about earlier. I thought maybe some of you guys would know this one, so it's a good one to bring up. It's the one that smells like garlic, tastes like garlic when it's too ripe. But if you eat it before it's ripe, it's a really good fruit. I think it's a very ornamental tree, but it is one that you would probably want to grow in the ground because it gets very large. I think Fullerton or someone has one, and it's pretty big. I would say about 50 feet by 15 or 20 feet. But that, to me, is about 12 feet high and 4 feet wide. I just keep it in this weird shape. That's just how big it's going to be. No matter how much it grows, I cut it and it responds well to pruning. This one was, the other fruit was really small, right? The one that tasted like chocolate and fruit. This one, on the other hand, is very large. There are 2 types of this one. There's a sour one and a sweet one. This one I got in 2015, 16 at the Festival of Fruits that was in San Diego. I can't remember what year that was, not knowing much about it. And so I put it in the ground. It's one of my, show-stopping trees because everyone's like, oh my God, it's so pretty. What is that? And it produces fruit that is very juicy and kind of tastes like a watery mango. So it is a very interesting fruit. It's just not very productive. So one of your talking points, if you have everyone try it, is like, you're lucky because this tree is ginormous and it's going to give you 3 fruit in the given year. That's it. But they are tasty at least. And I do have a taste testing video about this one as well. This was the first year fruit syndrome. The first year I didn't really like it. Then when I tried it again a couple of years later, it was a much tastier fruit. So that tree actually did get better as it aged. Yeah. Not really. What I did before I planted all these in the ground is I went to Griffith Park and I got a bunch of mulch and there's zoo poo and I amended my soil that way. So that and organic fertilizer is usually all I ever do. I don't do Epsom salt or anything. I heard that. I mean, sometimes it's magnesium that's in that. So if that plant needs magnesium, then it's definitely going to take off. So it really depends on what your soil is missing or what the plant is looking for that it may not have. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I have heard that. I just haven't tried it personally. This one is Eugenia repanda black. This one is, we'll play the video. It's a very skinny, wispy looking tree. So if you want something that looks completely different than another Eugenia that you have, let's play the video. Keywords that I would use to describe this Eugenia to you are dainty, ornamental, Christmas tree-esque, pretty. As we move about these 3 trees planted very close together, you'll notice that all the little berries are turning a nice shade of black. And it is such a cute little tree. Whenever people come into their yard, they're like, what is that? What is that? They're drawn to it, and I can see why. It has very pretty fruit, and it's tasty. When this thing lights up with blooms, it's spectacular. It really is like a tree covered in snow. There are so many blooms, and the fruit is refreshing. To me, if you know what a North American cherry tastes like, it's very similar to this. It is super easy to grow. You're gonna get a lot of people go, ooh, what is that? That's a good thing. But this is Eugenia repanda black. Follow for more. So with that one, you just need 1 tree and it will produce hundreds of fruit in a year. So that 1 tree will produce about 400 fruit, and I have 3 in a row, so I get more, the birds and the bugs and everything. What's just a off note about that one is the bugs love it too. So when it's in flower, you will have the fig beetles, the flies, the wasp. Every bug in the yard loves the smell of that flower. So it also helps the pollination, but it's just amazing to watch how many insects like that Eugenia, not any of the other ones so much, but that particular one. All right. So here's another one of my favorites. I have videos for both of these. This is kind of like cherry of the Rio Grande. So somebody went into the forest, they found it, they don't know what to call it. So when I say Eugenia SP, because that's the way you're going to get the seed, especially if you buy it from the sites. Sometimes they'll name it like Catharina de Muerta or whatever. That's the region they found it in. But these were so long ago that they just called it the color of the fruit. So I have a purple and an orange, and we'll play those back to back for you. You need to grow this plant.
When you grow things from
Excuse me, no.
seed, you don't always get what you expect. This fruit was supposed to be an unknown orange fruit in the Eugenia family, but instead it turned out to be something similar, but yet different to what's commonly called the cherry of the Rio Grande. And that can sometimes be a tasty fruit. But this one is similar, but very different. For one, it has a smoky, almost earthy grape taste that is very pleasing to eat. It also stays a small tree, producing hundreds of fruit at a time. Luckily, I planted it next to another one, and yep, it actually is an orange fruit with a completely different taste. They complement each other very well. Eugenia, what an underrated group of fruits.
Yeah, so for the people that collect Eugenia a lot like me, you'll get a lot of hatred towards this species because they've tasted all the bad ones. But when you taste something like this purple one, and then we'll go to the next slide and do the orange, that's what changes your mind once you taste these guys.
This tastes like orange starburst. Wait, what? This is Eugenia SP Orange. I collect and grow rare fruit from around the world, and sometimes it takes me many years to grow them out and see what they taste like. When I finally get to try them, sometimes I'm super disappointed, but sometimes I am really pleased beyond belief. I love this one. What a great taste. The fruit is smaller this year due to our weird weather, but it is just as tasty as its bigger fruit from last year. There's anywhere from 2 to 4 seeds inside, and when you eat it, well, the closest thing I can think of is a mild orange starburst flavor. You get a decent amount of flesh with the fruit even with 2 to 4 seeds inside, but the fruit is on the smaller side. Luckily, the tree bears hundreds of fruit when mature, and they all ripen over about a 4-week period. Grow something for the taste you just can't get anywhere else. Nom 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 nom.
So that one was really the first one that I tasted that I was like, wow, this is something I really want to get more into because it does taste like an orange starburst, where the other one was like a smoky wine barrel-y tropical flavor you can't really put words to. Oh, I save every single one and I either replant it or I sell them, usually. There's a few that I spit on the ground, but normally I save them. Now with Surinam cherry, I figured some people would go moan and go like, we've had that. It tastes like gasoline. They're really gross. Why do I want to grow those? Well, again, it's one of those where that is first experience. When you taste the red one and you get that turpentine gasoline flavor, you're like, I don't really like this fruit. But there are ones that will change your mind. We'll have, the next slide will be a black one. And then different cultivars. The black I have, there's one called Regina and there's one called Nude because it's almost white. You can almost see through it like translucent. Mind-blowing taste. They don't taste like the other one because it's mainly sweet and you don't get that resin flavor. So talk about one of the easiest of all Eugenia to grow. Just when you're looking for them, either get a grafted one or grow the seeds out from one of the better cultivars. And then more than likely, you're going to get one that tastes really good. So here is my Regina one. This is from a guy in Argentina, Miguel.
The best reason to grow rare fruit is that you get to taste something that just isn't available anywhere else. This is a fruit called Surinam cherry. Eugenia uniflora is the scientific name. This cultivar is called Regina. A cultivar is a variety of fruit that's been picked out for its favorable characteristics such as taste, color, shape, or all of them. Regina lives up to the promise. This tree has been grown from seed for about 6 years and was a shy producer at first, but now it's producing fruit in abundance. The fruit itself is very beautiful. It starts off as this lime green color, then going to a slight, yellowish color to orange, then to this deep mahogany color, and it's just gorgeous. And the taste, well, it's like nothing else you can quite describe. I can literally say I can't think of anything else that it tastes like, and that is wonderful. If you can grow this fruit, do. The one fruit that beats it is our black variety of Surinam cherry, which is truly stunning and like nothing else.
All right, here we go. Regina Surinam cherry. I love them. I love Surinam cherries in general, especially the dark black ones. This one's really, really good.
It is really good. Regina means queen.
You heard it, that queen's good. What it does mean queen, so they gave it a name. So our black one is still better than this, but they're very close. I mean, hard to put a difference to them, but
So there you have it. Grow something for the taste you just can't get anywhere else.
So these videos kind of show you, I kind of do it for anyone that's in there. So I have to do a wide gamut of maybe you know nothing, maybe you're already a collector. So in some of the videos I give specifics and some of them I don't. So I just try and run the gamut of it. All right, so this one is just a little bit about, in case you have a shady spot in your yard, you got a fruit tree that's going to do well here. Because a lot of Eugenia like shade, especially when they're young. But when I say young, their first 10 years, they can take total shade. So we'll play this video and to show some of this. Let me show you what a little bit more shade and a little bit more water will do for your plants, especially Eugenia in Southern California. This Eugenia daguahensis is from 2017 and gets mainly afternoon shade with morning sun and is in a spot where it gets pretty ample water. and he's right next to Eugenia reinwartiana. So they're both doing great. The plant's 9 years old, and that's all. Well, let's go check out the ones that are in full sun and don't get that much water. So I think they also get beat up. They are only both in the ground, 20 feet apart, but the conditions make it very significant because this one super bleached out, although the new growth is really pretty. But yeah, I mean, the exposure to the cold and just the direct sunlight, wow, what a difference. Also in a container, what a difference. So that was just kind of to show you where the other one has a canopy hanging over it, probably a little bit higher humidity, only about 4 hours of sun, where this one gets, you know, a good 12 hours of sun. So the foliage, the new foliage on the one in the sun, really pretty. But I'd rather have my plant look like the mature leaves are healthy, like the other one, and they'd still both produce fruit. So even in the shade, I get as much fruit on that little one as I do on this bigger one. And they're the same age, but this is a good example of, so the one that was in the shade was like that tall. This one in the sun comes up to about right here. They came from different cellars. Now the fruit's identical, but the trees are exhibiting different characteristics. So expect that, you know, just because you see something online, you're not going to get exactly that. One from Argentina may act very different than another one from Puerto Rico or something like that, as an example. Now here we'll go and we'll just talk about some of the different ones that you might go and look for on, you know, your journey for like growing Eugenia. This one, look at that leaf. Oh my God, that is a beautiful leaf. I have killed this one several times. It is difficult to germinate and get going, but once you do, kind of carefree. But for some reason, in the juvenile stage, it's very difficult for me to get it going. But I finally got one that I think is going to be like, okay, you've lived 2 years. I think you're going to keep going. But also a bumpy red fruit that is apparently very delicious. I have not tasted this one. Eugenia arenosa, that's another one I think, I mean, that's in the same family. It's crazy. And the leaves of this one look very different than that. Oftentimes with Eugenia, you're going to get very beautiful, like on the immature plant, there'll be beautiful leaves. There was another one that was sold just because it was ornamental, looked like a candy cane. Everyone went gaga for it. Well, once it's over 2 years old, not even the new leaves are like that. So they do tend to exhibit a very beautiful structure when they're young, and then they grow out of it. But sometimes you do get that like beautiful leaf on a full mature plant. Now this one is the one that had the horrible name, the passifloras. And the taste report only came in last week, and that was the one that was insipid, but apparently sold to all of us as the best tasting Eugenia ever. This one, Eugenia complicata, I make fun of that name because that's another one that's extremely hard to grow, but talk about a true blue fruit. I mean, it is a vibrant, like blue you just haven't seen anywhere else. That's from the Cerrado region, I think. So for me, that's why it's complicated because, you know, they need certain things that we just can't provide them, but we can. But I do know other people that are growing it here in Southern California in containers and doing well. I'm just heavy-handed. So most of the things that I do are over water. So I'm just, you know, in case you're also a heavy waterer, with that mix I had at the beginning, you'll be fine. All right, so this one, does anyone know what Plinia or Jaboticaba is? Okay, it's cool that it blooms and fruits right on the trunk, right? Well, this is one of the only Eugenia that does that. So also super rare, I mean, extremely rare, but so easy to grow. So that's what it looks like on my little patio. I grow it in full shade. That have produced fruit in the second year that it was growing. So also a fast fruiter. Yeah, it's not the best tasting fruit, but sometimes I think when things are endangered because its habitat is critically endangered, I'm glad people are collecting it and growing it out because it's beautiful and it needs saving. So that's one of those Eugenia where you're like, you grow it because it's going to be a collector's item. Plus, put it with your other ones, have them hybridized, and you never know what you're going to get out of the hybrid. Eugenia villanova, that's mainly because it's super rare. Super small fruit, very tasty, is what we were told. It also was insipid. All right, next one. This one is one of my disasters that I was telling you about, the raccoons. So I had a flowering, fruiting tree that was only 3 years old. It was yay big, already producing, yay. Raccoons dug it up. That's one of the Eugenias that has a taproot. So let's say you get this one and you plant it in a container, just keep it in the container, because then you can move it around. Potting it up was not a problem, but that particular one, when it was just dug out for less than 6 hours before I found it, when I put it back in a container, it died within a week. So it was just unhappy, but it was doing so well in the ground. So it is super easy to grow, and the leaves are beautiful, and that fruit, I was told, is the best watermelon you could eat. And that came from a guy that I do believe has other taste reports, so that's going to be a very tasty one to watch for. Eugenia patricii, that's a very small fruit. This is a collector who, that's his photo of all the little tiny ones. There are apparently 2 versions, both delicious, but that's also some of the things you're going to run into when you're shopping for seeds. I bought Eugenia patricii from 2 different people. You can tell the plants are different. We don't know exactly which one is patricii. So there are sometimes fights going on, like, I have the real one. No, I have the real one. So buy them both. And out of that, usually when they come from different countries, that's when you get the different species. All right, so this one is Eugenia zucchininii. So I was able to taste this one at my friend's farm in Hawaii. I mailed the seeds back to me, and that bush is in my little garden. It's maybe 12 inches high, and it has probably 500 blooms on it. So it is super quick to produce flowers, and then followed by fruit that's decent, not mind-blowing. But if you want a tasty snack that you're going to have a lot of, it's a good one, especially for containers, because it won't outgrow a container. And same with this one, Eugenia hirta. For me, I was like, if anyone wants a really light fairy garden, hirta's the way to go, because the leaves are no bigger than your thumb, and the fruit is really tasty. It kind of has an orange tropical flavor to it. So I have mine in a 1-gallon pot. It's flowering and fruiting in a 1-gallon pot. So these, that's the plant that I said is 100 feet tall. That's what it's doing in a 1-gallon pot. So just to bring it to light again, this is what the bark of it looks like. So super ornamental. And that's the fruit, mainly grown in Brazil. But again, if you want something that no one else is going to have, because that's kind of what I like. Like, I don't want the rare. I want the very rare. It sucks, I know. But that's why I chose this one, because I've also never seen leaves like that on a Eugenia. So sometimes I hedge my bet on the ornamental body. So this is what I took it yesterday or the day before. Just kind of shows my Eugenia patch that I have and some of the Eugenias I have in the ground. So I'm almost done. We have one more video and like 3 more slides. So this will be the last video. Hey everyone, it is like a day before the tour, and I thought I would just do like a couple of trees with me in it so you can see size and scope. This is Eugenia repanda black. They are about 10 feet tall, but really, really wispy, and this is the one that looks like a Christmas tree with really good fruit. This one is unknown, so I call it Eugenia SP Purple Front Yard, and its fruit tastes like candy. Eugenia myrcianthes. This one can get to be a beast, pretty tall, but I'm keeping it at about 10 feet, and I have grafted on different branches so they can now cross-pollinate. Sometimes your tree needs... This little guy here is Eugenia neonatidia. It's kind of like a batanga tuba, super short, not even 1.5 feet tall, and I planted this by seed in 2017. So it is old and has not fruited. By the way, all the ones we just did were in the front yard in the ground. These are some of my pride and joys in the background. They're all in the ground and doing well. Eugenia SP Orange, tiny compact tree. Eugenia SP Purple, side by side. This tree, much wider, but also short, delicious fruit. And finally, I'm going to show you the Eugenia bed that I planted 3 years ago. And there are good things and bad things. Eugenia coronata, dying.
Like chocolate.
Eugenia ataguahensis does its struggles, but it's doing okay. And then can I show you some of the other, they're all over the place in size and scope, but this is the Eugenia garden. And that is one of my blastantha fruits. And so we are about a year away from all of these fruiting. All different species, and these were all in that video of the 62 species. I chose dwarf variety, so even though they look like they're small plants, most are 5 to 7 years old, because they're not going to get more than 4 feet tall, most of these in the front. And then the ones in the back, well, they get tall.
That's the
All right, thanks for hearing me talk today. Bye.
So one of your takeaways is in that spot, it's about 4 feet wide, maybe 6 feet long. And I think I have 20 Eugenia planted in there. So in case you wanted to do a small patch with a bunch of them, easily, just keep them small. So I did a chart in case we share this later. This will have some of the best tasting ones and then where they're from. Also gives a little taste note so you can see like, oh, I'm looking for something that has a little bit more complex flavor, maybe something with a little bit more, simple flavor, just sweet. And then I tried to do my best to kind of describe them or give the common name in case you know the common name. The seedless one, that's blastantha. I don't think I've listed it on these, but it should be in that list, yeah. So then in the next slide, it's the ones that you can definitely fruit in a container. So for any of these, when I say container, you could get away with a 10-gallon or 15-gallon, but once they're 5 years or older, if you want a ton of fruit, go to a half wine barrel. Because I buy the cheap Home Depot ones that are like $19 or whatever, and those are the ones that I use to grow all of these in that are not in the ground. And it's not just Eugenia. Annona are another big one for me. So I was just kind of saying that I grow a bunch of different things. As a side note, nothing about Eugenia. Campomenesia now has my attention because it's in the guava family and it is super ornamental with fruit that looks like flying saucers in all shapes and colors and taste profiles as well. So we'll see how my bank account likes that because they're not easy to find, but the sites will have some of them. So if you want another easy to grow fruit tree, Campomenesia would be one of them because they're really super easy. Not to mention Plinia. That is Jaboticaba. So that is Plinia. That's my red X when it was in fruit last year. So it tons of fruit. This year with the lack of rain, I got maybe 4 on it. So it grows, I mean, it does not struggle at all with or without water, but with additional water, it will fruit definitely more. I mean, I think we got 32 inches last year and 9 this year in the yard, so it made a big difference. Yeah, it was, I live in Eagle Rock, so it was a little weird pocket. We're kind of by the foothills. It was just an insane amount of water. And then this year we got none. So this was just showing off some of the other ones where I'm trying here in California, which they all said was like, too cold for this one, too cold for this one, but yet my tree is flowering right there. If you want the best smelling fruit, again, not Eugenia, but a fruit where you're gonna remember the smell, this species, Quepia, wow. It tastes like brioche bread and jelly. It's just a really good smeller. I haven't tasted but one, and it wasn't quite ready, and it's known not to be the best tasting one, but my whole point is that whole family, it could be a whole new addiction because there's a bunch of them, but they all smell great. And that's basically it. So sorry if I, bored some of you. Hopefully you got some information out of that. And do you have any questions? Thank you. Sure. Excellent question. The first one is I try and look for Eugenia that do not flower all at the same time, because they're from such a wide variety of climates. You have some that bloom in January, some that bloom in May, some, now that we're getting to know them better, the ones I put in my little bed, for example, those should bloom all around the same time. So my hope is that they do cross-pollinate each other. The one in the front that I had to graft is, I didn't know until I did some further research about that particular species that a lot of people, like that gentleman, I can't remember your name, but he's right there in the plaid chart. He has one, produces fruit. Don has a tree that produces fruit all on its own. Mine is over 10 years old and refuses to do it. So I was, down a rabbit hole on the internet one day. And finally, I found some other people are like, yeah, we have the same issue. We had to introduce another tree for it to, do that. And for me, I'm a hoarder. So the idea of having like two big trees right next to each other, we traded scions. And so I grafted like 15 different branches of his tree, because he grew his from seed too, so definitely different genetics. And then I would say 8 of those 15 took. Eugenia is not the easiest thing to graft, but they're not as hard as some things. Also a very good question. When I start the Eugenia, do I keep them in a greenhouse or do I leave them outside? Depends on how lazy I am that year. I've had success and failures doing both. So for the majority, I would say start them indoors in that seed bag just to get them germinated. And if you want true success their first year, keep them warmer. So if you had any sort of greenhouse for the first year, do it. But then after that first year, take the 1-gallon pots outside, put them in a semi-shaded or mainly shaded area, and they get by in the winter, no problem. That is also an amazing question. It was, can or have people grafted different species of Eugenia to other species, like citrus, you can graft a lot of different citrus onto one rootstock and have a cocktail tree. It really hasn't been done yet. So I can't answer that question fully because we don't know. A lot of people grow these individually. There's a lot of talk, especially on Tropical Fruit Forum, of people that are only growing one and they want to try. So I have a feeling in the next few years, we'll find out the success rate of what people have done with theirs. But for me, I have not put on, for example, that myrcianthes onto a squamiflora or anything like that. I'm kind of worried because with Eugenia, you have such a wide, with citrus, leaves can look very similar. But with Eugenia, you're going to have a Frankenstein tree very quickly, which could be good. But I mean, you're going to have big leaves on one side, needle-like leaves on another. And if it works, that could be like the coolest thing ever. But there might need to be some planning because also with the growth rate, you never know what you're going to get.
So most trees are grown up from seed.
Correct.
Most of the fruit trees are mostly grafted or cuttings are rooted. See that with
These are all great questions. Unfortunately, all I can say was basically are all of my Eugenias grown from seed, and what about the grafting and other ways of propagating them? Am I basically? Well, yes. For example, the Surinam cherry, the Regina, and the black, it is best if you were to graft those. I usually graft them onto themselves. So for the Regina, I'd grow out the seedlings, then graft my Regina onto the Regina seedlings. But in my experience, which is limited, I'm not an expert on this. I'm just showing you the stuff that I've done in like the last 6 years. There's a lot of them that come true to seed because most of these that are now fruiting for me, I'm comparing against what the images and the plants look like and the taste reports that came across on some of the, tropical fruit forums or Facebook groups, and they're very similar. So I would say it's not far off. But like the guy Miguel in Argentina, uh, he had, that's where Regina Suriname cherry came from, and that one's from seed, but I couldn't be happier with the taste of it. So, I could graft those and then do that, but I think if you do that and you're like, I just want a good fruit, it doesn't have to be that exact one. You're going to be pretty good growing it from seed. Difficult to root. I would say medium. There's this one guy in Germany that can root anything. So for him, he's going to say it's super easy. But for those that are not the best at that propagation method, and I'm not the best. I mean, I use rooting hormones and sand, and I have a greenhouse, and I haven't gotten any to take yet. Doesn't mean it's not possible. Just means it's probably not the easiest. Yes, they do air layer because I know a guy in Kentucky who is air layering the ones in his greenhouse, and he is having success with that. But with a lot of Eugenia, they're really thin stems on some of them or branches, so you just have to be very careful with, how much cambium you take off and the kind of air layering that you do there. So the question is, big trees in small pots, what do I have to do to keep them happy? Eugenia is just that species I love because the answer is not a whole lot. They don't like to dry out in the pots, but like the Leotonii, the one in the 1 gallon is a little beat up, but it's that big tree. I don't do anything to it. I have one in a 5 gallon and one in a 10 gallon. I water them. Now my mix is pretty good. And at the time of putting anything into a container, I just put some granular fertilizer, whether it's Osmocote or maybe I have organic at that time. I mix it in, but at least for a year, I don't do anything else. So they're very forgiving. You don't have to do a lot for a big tree in a small pot besides water. Again, I think I'm just lucky because no, of the disease resistant plants that I like to grow, because Eugenia is up there with because I do know that that is, I've seen some, but I don't know if it's because the pest just isn't aware of these yet because they are so new, but I don't have any pest on any of these Eugenia. Oh, they did have a cure for it? I see. So the wasp lay their eggs or the larvae is like on the, I see. See, that could be a very good experiment. I do think that any of these that you have, because they haven't had pests so far, you're probably going to be pretty good with the pest management on them. So the question is, have I ever seen the Suriname cherry that has a name for the cultivar name? 5674, whatever. My answer to that is maybe it's changed because the one that I'm calling Regina used to be called Miguel's Best. So as a marketing ploy, these sellers often change the names. So especially because they're just selling you seeds, they can call it whatever they want. So it may have went out of favor calling it just by a number, so they may have given it a more snazzy name. Like the one that was called Nude, um, has a new name now. I just can't remember it off the top of my head, but I think people didn't like nude, even though it's literally almost see-through and transparent. So maybe that's, but I haven't seen that particular one you're talking about. Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, Ben Poirier is a guy that used to sell a lot of like stuff in this area. He had a lot of Eugenias. Maybe it came from him originally, but he's not selling anymore that I know of. So again, if maybe the guy that named it also doesn't distribute it anymore, people sometimes change the names just because it works better for them to remember it. A Suriname cherry. He was saying he has one called West Tree. Uh, is it a red Suriname cherry or one of the different colors? It's red. Yeah. Is it good? That's the exact reason I was saying before. You have to get outside of, especially the color red. Normally, when it's that bright red, it has a lot of resin that's going to leave your mouth wishing you had never eaten it. But the other colors are better. Oh, no, it's not typical. It's just genetics. I've seen other people with a black Suriname cherry that have very tiny fruit and a big seed. Mine are about the size of a quarter with a small seed inside. So again, because we're growing them from seed, but mine is delicious. So I would go, if you have to do any color, black tends to be a better flavor of Suriname cherries. Excellent question. Of the Eugenia, are any of them more drought tolerant, good tasting, and with shade? So with that in mind, when you're looking and educating yourself on some of these, go for the ones that come from the Cerrado region, because the Cerrado region, being so dry, loves a long dry spell. So normally they don't like wet winters, but they can tolerate it. But the summers, they could most likely be in shade with very little water. So the Eugenia anthropophaga was in one of the earlier sides, big fruit. That is from, I think, a dry region. So yes, definitely. Most of the sellers have a big, long description. Again, just take it with a grain of salt. Read what you can out of it. But if they say the name of where it's from, look at that region and see if it's a drier region, and then you're probably going to be okay with less water on that one. Brazil. Cerrado is a region of Brazil, but that is not where Eugenia is only originating from. There's a lot of different places they're from, but Brazil is probably by far the largest. Make a what out of it? Oh, a liquor. Yes, they do. Like, so the question is, she's from Italy and she's used to a Eugenia there that they make liquor out of. And are any of these used to make liquor? I think almost all these could be used to make some sort of liquor, and you would have a wide range of flavor profiles out of them because you're just going to rot the fruit. Something like the garlic one, the Eugenia myrcianthes, I wouldn't suggest it unless you want some really nasty smelling wine. But the other ones that have really good fragrance could probably make a very sweet tasting wine. But that's great because, again, I don't know a lot of people. A lot of these bushes will produce thousands of fruit. So when it's a pretty big seed and not much flesh, that's when you're going to make wine out of it, especially. Well, you should find out somebody there and have them ship you seeds because it's very easy to get a permit again for seed imports. And if they do it the right way, or go to the Bellamy tree site and say, hey, there's this thing in Sardinia. Can you get it for me and see if he can? Because, I mean, that's what it's all about, getting new stuff here. I will try and remember that and research it. Yes, sir. Yes, now it's been a hot minute since I've done that. But when I did, I just go onto the USDA site and there's a form with a name that has a stupid number. It's like CD119 something. But the other name is a small lot of import seeds. And what they want to do is have you just put one taxa or genus on it. So it's like, I'm only going to be putting Eugenia. That's all I want to order. But a lot of these guys have so much stuff. When you look at their site, you're going to be like, I want one of everything. So you just fill it out that you want all qualified taxa on the, that's the one question that kind of threw me off. Like, what's the one thing you want to grow or import? And I said, all qualified things. And then they let everything that I order go through on that. And I think a permit is for 3 years, and then you have to renew it, and they send you labels. So has anyone imported seeds? Yeah. Plants? Plants are a little bit more difficult, so I say kudos because they are a little bit more difficult. These, you get the permit for free. They send you labels that are green and yellow. So the seller is required to put that label on the first package, and that will go to the import station. And so that's your first cost, that mail. But then you have to give them a second label from the port of entry to your home. So you have to make sure that you give them the green and yellow label and then the additional label so that it'll get to you. On all of my pots, it's that potting mix that I had at the beginning. I make my own mix of, I think it was like 6 different things that with a lot of sand and a lot of rice hulls. I will do that as either on a video or something so you can find it. If you, yeah, I can definitely do that. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. That's a good question. I would say reverse bonsai. I know, right, right. I don't know how to answer that because normally, it's a big, fat, wide pot and usually a kind of a shorter tree. All right, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.